For more than 80 years, it's been the ultimate utility vehicle. A machine capable of seating 9 and hauling just about anything.
The Suburban's one of the biggest things you can buy right now. That's sort of its appeal.
A name that spans 12 generations and helped build a country.
The Suburban has kind of followed the history of America.
It defined what an SUV could be as a family vehicle.
Today, this mega SUV is super built in the heart of Texas.
Everything's bigger and better, and this is the biggest SUV on our lineup, and we couldn't be prouder.
Pride that goes by the name Chevrolet Suburban, the longest continuously produced automobile ever made. It is the original, go anywhere, do anything super SUV.
Sometimes you just need to be able to haul a lot of things long distances.
A machine that's been barreling down the road long before anyone knew the term sport utility vehicle.
If you've never spent any time with one, you don't understand. But it's one of the best kept secrets in the automotive industry. This is an all-rounder that does everything well.
Over the years, competitors have come and gone. Yet the Chevrolet Suburban remains relatively the same.
Suburban sort of is its own thing now. It's this big, large SUV. It doesn't have a lot of competition.
This is one of those examples where a company looks at a success story and says, don't mess with it.
Generations of families owned Suburbans. It has that intangible quality. You have that kind of history, it matters to people.
These days, the Suburban's history is written inside General Motors' Arlington assembly plant. It's the company's lone Texas factory, yet perhaps its most important worldwide. Because this is the only place where the company manufactures its Chevrolet, GMC, and Cadillac full-sized SUVs.
We are in the heart of the plant. The assembly process is 4 main departments. We have stamping, where we shape the metal components. Then we go to body shop, where all the welding happens. We go into the paint process. Then they are delivered into a general assembly.
The factory is part of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, a contiguous urban area that features multiple city centers.
You have Dallas, you have Fort Worth, and we're right in the middle.
More than 6 million people live in the region, making this the 4th largest metropolitan area in the United States.
Everyone here is happy to have this truck here. We're definitely proud of what we build. Any truck that I see on the road, I know that we had something to do with it.
The plant is crucially important to the company's bottom line, because full-size SUVs are some of the most profitable vehicles produced in the automotive industry.
It doesn't cost them that much to build it versus what they sell it for. And they sell a lot of them, too.
These vehicles are critical to the success of our company, and I think it's critical to the success of our economy, from my perspective.
An average full-size SUV brings in nearly 7,200 pounds in profit. And right now, they sell them faster than they can build them.
It's the 24 hours of the day. Most of the weeks, we work 6 days. By the end of the week, we have a very significant volume.
When a factory is open 6 days a week, 24 hours a day, that says the company's paying attention and they're maximizing that factory. You don't want downtime. It's just smart business.
It's often said that everything is bigger in Texas, and they're not kidding. Arlington Assembly produces 1,200 new vehicles every single day.
We're a big state, therefore we big trucks. And hey, I'm not gonna say we have large people that drive them, but we just love doing everything in a big way.
Nearly 4,200 people clock into this factory daily.
So this plant starts a regular operation for the week on Sunday night, and we go all the way through Saturday night.
It can be hard work, it can be challenging. You're always here. So, you know, you got your family and then you got your GM family.
The people I work with are great. We're brothers. It takes everybody from the top to the bottom to make this work.
There's a lot of people working hand in hand, working side by side. We all have our different roles to ensure that this vehicle comes out of here as a quality built vehicle in time.
The 400,000 square meter plant features 280 stations on the general assembly line.
The takt time is 62, 63 seconds. We deliver 1 truck per minute.
That's not a lot of time. A lot of pressure. A lot of pressure.
Very few automotive factories can even come close to producing 1 vehicle per minute.
This plant makes a lot of money, so there's a lot of revenue going out into the city, to the state. So it's excellent for them, and it's excellent for the economy.
Excellence that adds up. Arlington Assembly pays out over £700,000 in wages per day. And annually, the plant contributes over £300 million to the local economy.
This is a big monument for Arlington. More than anything, you know, it brought a lot of business.
It has a great impact on the Arlington economy, and a lot of other businesses also benefit from the assembly plant being here.
On a macro level, the plant helps the general community. But look a little closer, and it's clear that the success helps the men and women on the line.
It's been a blessing. Put food on the table, get my kids through school, you know, things like that.
I love getting up, coming out here to work every day. I think it's a blessing, first of all, from God that I am able to have this type of job. But it is absolutely a wonderful experience. I wouldn't have traded it for nothing in the world.
I love what I do. I couldn't picture working anywhere else. I like being part of a team that builds this amazing product.
In 2015, GM invests more than £1 billion to build new body and paint shops, as well as retool the existing factory lines. Yet the plant is so important that they never shut it down during construction.
This project is taking place as we keep producing. We cannot stop the line.
Really important for our country that we have a strong manufacturing presence. But I think that we realize that we need to build our own product and not buy everybody else's products.
The goal isn't just to feed consumerism, but to create vehicles with meaning, machines that last.
You're going to drive these trucks to the end, and that's exactly what we want. We make these trucks so that your kids are going to inherit them.
If you consider more than 4,000 people, thousands of part numbers, thousands of tools that are working, sometimes 10 cycles per minute, it's very demanding, very complicated by definition.
You got rolls of aluminum, rolls of steel. You got so many different parts coming in here and leaving on a rolling, driving machine. It's unfathomable how complex it is. It still boggles my mind.
All of that complexity begins with a very big bang.
This is where the magic happens. We stamp the parts. The parts come in as a sheet of metal. They press a shape into it, they puncture holes through it, and out pops the part.
The star attraction is the giant pressing line.
It's huge. It's incredible. The dies go in, you make whatever part you need. You're constantly building. It's amazing.
You stand at the goal line and you look down 50 yards, and that's where the end of our press is, about half the size of a football field.
The transformation begins when metal blanks arrive.
This is a roof, and it's about 30 thousandths of an inch thick. So if you can imagine, that's very thin. The fork truck operator loads this stack of steel into what we call our D-stacker. It picks it up, checks for double blanks, and it loads it to what we call a centering station. And from the centering station, it goes through a washing process.
A blank goes through 5 main steps. The first is called the draw, and it's the most jarring. This is where a flat panel is pressed into a rough piece.
Well, at this point, it has no color on it, it has no trimming, so it's just bare metal.
Next, they trim the part, then pierce it, before flanging and restriking it once and for all.
We're at the end of the line, and this is the final product you see.
There's an incredible amount of pure force on display. Yet the greatest strength comes down to the people.
My older daughter asked me, "What do you do, Dad?" And I tell her that I make the greatest SUV on planet Earth. And I'll see a Suburban going down the street, and I'll say, "Darling, we make those."
A lot of people are married. My husband works here. We work together. Sometimes I dream about him, so, you know, it's like he never goes away. It's like mildew. He grows on you.
Stamped parts head directly to the body shop, where it takes a lot of sparks and a touch of Texas pride to get the job done. It goes 0 to 60 in a little over 7 seconds, features a 355 horsepower V8 engine, and has enough muscle to tow 3,700 kilos. The Chevy Suburban, an SUV icon, and a machine built with a very unique form of localized passion.
When we have our motto of a world-class ride built with Texas pride, we as Texans, we take pride in what we do.
We feel that we are the greatest state. We were our own country at one point. We all exude the cowboy pride, and that's what we do.
There's a saying, I wasn't born in Texas, but I got here as fast as I could.
People aren't the only ones in a hurry. In the body shop, it takes just over 8 hours to build a single exterior shell.
Take the parts from the stamping facilities, we put them together, weld them, and we ship it down to the paint shop.
This is where everything starts. You come in here, it's nothing, and by the time it leaves out, you got a full job. But in between, you got tons of things that happen.
Over 1,200 robots hum with activity in the 100,000 square meter facility.
The whole system is fully automated. That's where you get the Texas toughness, built by the Texas people. I have one of the best American product made roll out of this facility.
I like to work in the body shop because we're the first line of defense. If we don't do it right, it's not done right.
The facility features an amazing amount of automation.
Over 120 robots just on this line alone, so it's quite a bit of voltage going through here.
They start by welding the bottom of the machine together.
Those Suburbans, I see them out on the street, and I'm happy that I see them out on the street because that keeps me working.
On a separate line, another set of robots join the inner and outer side panels. The built-up panels then head directly to the main line.
Then you put the side frames attached to the roof, and then you put all the swing panels, fenders, hoods, lift gates.
Rear quarter panels go on, and a robot swings the lengthy roof into place before the sparks start to really fly. The assembled bodies are placed on sleds in preparation for the paint shop, but there's still a little bit more work to be done. Workers add the front quarter panels to the carrier and lift the hood into position. Then, on the final line, another set of craftspeople attach the doors to the bare metal body.
I am a weld checker. I make sure all the welds that the robot welds are holding and keeping the job together. From the smallest bolt to the biggest piece to the floor pan, a lot goes into building a car. It's just not one big piece.
a lot happens inside these walls. And a lot has happened to the machine itself over the past 80+ years.
The Suburban name goes way back, and it's something that means something to people and continues to mean something to people.
The Suburban story starts in 1935. At the time, the United States has a population of just 127 million people. A US postage stamp costs just 3 cents. And canned beer goes on sale for the first time.
At its introduction, it was really kind of a covered pickup truck. But then as people used it, it became kind of synonymous with utility.
The initial machine is extremely bare bones, combining a pickup truck with a station wagon. Little does anyone realize just how profound the concept will become.
If you look at all the vehicles that were being put out in the 1930s, you didn't have nearly the range that we have now. You had sedans, you had trucks, and you maybe had some luxury cars. The Suburban was trying a new thing.
The austere nature of the machine fits the era.
For a long time, it wasn't about hauling people. It was really about being a van for the wilderness or for the farm. Things you had to remember, there was no highway system, there was no interstates. Those didn't come along until the 1950s. Roads in general in the cities were paved, but paved didn't mean the same thing that we think of now.
The lack of roads isn't the only challenge, so is name recognition. Oddly, at the time, multiple brands used the Suburban name to describe their vehicles.
You had a Chrysler Suburban, and you had station wagons from Rambler and International that were called Suburbans. A lot of people had the name Suburban at the time.
6 years later, the second generation arrives. Just 2 years after the start of World War II.
The Suburban got its start before World War II, but during World War II, it was used extensively by the military as a transport vehicle.
Military applications help boost sales in the field and when the GIs return home.
When this vehicle was introduced, planes start coming into the American landscape. Trains started becoming much more stylized. It starts becoming a little bit more of a complete shape.
The third generation arrives in 1947 and offers a 216 cubic inch Thriftmaster inline 6-cylinder engine.
So this was the first of the post-war truck designs. So this was called the Advanced Design Series. It shared its front-end sheet metal with the pickup. You can see there's a split windshield. The fenders are growing out. The headlamps now are all part of the fender. You're starting to see this kind of one shape or one form vocabulary grow.
These days, bare metal bodies get styled inside an advanced and automated paint shop.
We receive the body from the body shop, and then once we get our hands on it, we have to prep it for painting.
From start to finish, it takes just 6 hours to color a new machine.
They start from phosphate, and from there, they get coated with a zinc oxide for rust resistance.
Bodies head to a sealing line, where a combination of man and machine guarantee that the shell is completely waterproof.
They go through our seal line process, and that's where we have all of our automation, and then we also have a lot of manual operations that do sealing on the actual vehicle.
The automated help is the first of over 111 robots found in the paint shop. Something best seen in the primer booth.
After that, they go through our color booths. We have 3 of those here. So they go through base coat, a second layer of the actual base, and then they go through our clear coat.
The robots paint fast and furiously. Each head spins up to 60,000 revolutions per minute.
A paint applicator spins at a high RPM and it electrically charges the paint so that the paint adheres to the metal, and we get all the surfaces evenly coated.
Next, the vehicle receives its clear coat to protect the base color.
When you see the first body coming down, you don't expect the truck to be glimmery and shiny. You see the color, the vibrance. I think at that point you start seeing a little bit of the glimpse of the final product. But once you see the complete product, you're like, I did that. I was a part of the paint.
Finally, the body hits the quality control line.
We put a little heart in every job that we build, and we want to make sure the customer's there for life.
The heartfelt passion doesn't just get instilled into each machine, but also the next generation.
I started here as a high school intern. I then went on to work on the floor. I was working nights and going to school. The hours, they were hard. It was 60 to 70 hours sometimes while taking a full load through college. But GM gave me the means to actually go to college.
Engineer Norma Gonzalez is one of the company's rising stars.
Once I graduated, I became part of the industrial engineering department, and now I finally got my own area here in the paint shop. I'm currently going for my master's in lean manufacturing, and GM is going the entire ride with me, and I couldn't be happier, especially with everything that they've done for me.
Amazingly, Norma's tale begins just a few miles from the factory floor.
I literally grew up down the street. I went to college down the street. I enjoy it. You're willing, the opportunities all over, and I want to learn as much as I can, and we're at the home of the SUV, the only in the world, so I'm very lucky, very fortunate, so I want to take advantage of that.
Some people grow up local, others are born into tried and true Chevy families.
The factory's been here for a long time, so there's a lot of family ties that's grown over the years, and people that have worked here initially, now they have kids, and some of those may even have kids, so you have a chance to have your kids work here.
Family ties that are often full of passion and emotion.
My son works here. He's been here about 2 years. It's pretty exciting. It's been fun to watch him grow and know the things he knows. Choke me up.
Sometimes he can have a soft heart, but you know, I love him. He's my father. I like working with him too, and especially being able to see him a lot more often. So
it was a shock because I didn't think anybody wanted to follow my footsteps, and I don't know that he did. But when he got involved with manufacturing, he loved it, and it's a perfect fit.
Ever since I was little, me and my dad always liked working on cars. I had a 2000 Silverado. We always liked adding stuff to it. So it kind of got me loving the GM product and wanting to come over and work for General Motors.
These days, a whole lot of people want GM's full-sized SUVs. The company builds as many as they can inside of their Arlington, Texas final assembly hall, including the king of the road, the Chevy Suburban. For the past 8 decades, Chevrolet has sold over 2.5 million Suburbans since the model's inception in 1935. It's a remarkable story that continues today. GM's full-sized SUVs control 75% of the XXL SUV market.
It's a very complicated product requiring thousands and thousands of parts to put it together.
Every 63 seconds, a newly painted body arrives on the general assembly line. Team members remove the doors, then add the rear tailgate badges, and install the massive sunroof.
You can see we built vehicles in sequence here. So when you build vehicle number 2, you got to have all the parts for 2. When you build vehicle number 37, you got to have the parts for vehicle number 37.
Arlington Assembly runs on a variant of the just-in-time manufacturing system. One of the most critical deliveries is the hefty wiring harness.
Over there, you have the main body wiring station. And the little housing that you see there, it's a mini oven.
The small oven preheats the harness, which makes the wires easier to bend during installation.
So as you can see, he's just putting it inside the truck and just doing the initial setup. He will have different team members doing the final routing and clipping and connections.
Next, they add the headliner. Foot pedals. Brake booster. Rear seat belts. And tail lights. The heating and air conditioning unit is hoisted into place. And then a few stations down the line, sequenced dashboards arrive.
Here we have what we call the IP installation. IP stands for instrument panel. And we've been calling this the brain because it controls the most of the truck. Those are very heavy components. As you can observe, we have 3 different team members that they gotta be properly coordinated because they need to get the IP, insert it into the truck, do the main attachment and some basic connections. Then they gotta do it in 45 seconds.
The swift installation highlights the remarkable efficiency on the line, something they've been continually refining at the Arlington plant for a very long time.
This facility started operation more than 60 years ago.
This was really a very small town when this plant came into being back in the 50s. It's grown from, kind of a cow town into it's big business now. We've got Major League Sports, we've got major entertainment. We're kind of the crossroads between Dallas and Fort Worth. Arlington's become a destination in itself.
The plant opens on January the 6th, 1954, initially to build the Pontiac Chieftain Saloon. At the time, the starting hourly wage is less than £1.50.
I've seen some of the pictures where there are 2 or 3 people carrying a panel.
Hard work in a hostile environment. The average temperature in northern Texas from June to September hovers between 30 and 35 degrees Celsius. To combat the heat, the plant becomes the first General Motors facility to install air conditioning.
The labor-intensive work probably was a lot higher. The line probably ran a lot slower. It was a lot harder work, I would think.
The effort pays off. Through the decades, Arlington produces over 10 million vehicles.
There's a great history behind Arlington. We converted this plant into trucks in the late 90s.
Suburban is our biggest product. You're talking about like soccer moms or baseball kids. I mean, where else are you going to fit all of them? So definitely there's a purpose for it.
The love for the product is perhaps only superseded by the love for family.
I have several family members here. My daughter works here. I love her dearly. She's my best friend. And I was so happy that when I got called to work out here, and I'm like, yes, I get to work with my mom. And that was my dream. When she was a little girl, she always said, well, I want to work with my mom. I want to work with my mom. And we're like one big family, but I also have folks that I really connected with that work around me. So they really did take care of me. This is what we do to all new people that come in. We have each other's backs.
After the dashboard is secured, it's time to build up the rest of the interior cabin. Craftspeople add the center console. Rear seats, and steering wheel. before the adjustable front captain's chairs get bolted into place. Workers load fresh windscreens into a safety cell. And a robot adds adhesive to the front glass before installing the panes. The rear glass then gets hoisted into place and attached to the tailgate.
We've been working 6 days a week for a good while, but on the other hand, you know, this business is kind of feast or famine. If you're selling, you want to make everything you can make, and that's how we're happy to be in the position that we're in. We're glad to have a product that people want, and we want to give it to them.
One line over, workers build up the doors. They start by adding the stereo speakers. Then bolt on the door handles. Fix the panes of glass and add some side mirrors, before finally giving each door a leather-wrapped touch. A few stations later, finished doors are reinstalled. At most modern car factories, the doors are one of the last items to be installed. But in Arlington, it's a bit different, because the body and the frame are built up independently of each other. In a segregated section of the facility, they prep and dress the massive Chevy V8 engines.
In here, we are completing the engine process to be transferred to the other side of the plant, where it's going to be installed on the frame.
New engines arrive daily, but they don't sit around very long.
It's an awesome experience. I've learned a lot since the 6 years that I've worked here. I enjoy it. I've loaded engines since I was about 5 years old, Chevy engines to be exact.
The first step is installing the beefy engine mount. Using massive semi-automated torque tools.
This is a big truck, but you gotta move it, and it requires a lot of power. These are big engines.
Big engines have been part of the Suburban story for decades. In 1960, the 5th-gen machine debuts and is an instant hit, thanks in large part to a new motor.
One of the things that really changed the game relative for General Motors and Chevrolet was the move from the stove bolt 6 to a V8. It was an incredibly simple engine, it was easy to work on, but it made a lot of power.
The 5th generation features a 4-speed transmission and optional 4-wheel drive directly from the factory.
What Suburban tapped into early on was that families want the capability of an SUV. They want to be able to go off-road, they want 4-wheel drive, they want to be able to tow. And Suburban was this giant, basically pickup truck-based thing that could seat the whole family and could go anywhere.
These days, the biggest Suburban engine is the 5th generation direct injection 5.3-litre V8. It produces 355 horsepower and nearly 400 pound-feet of torque.
You've got the block, and then we add the transmission and the wire harness. So basically, we just piece the engine together from the pieces that we get.
Finally, they're ready to install the transfer case.
The transfer case helps to transfer some additional power to the front part of the truck or the front wheels.
Transfer cases allow new Suburbans to redistribute the engine's power. On the factory floor, opportunity and advancement is equally as adaptable.
I actually started on this job right here behind us, walked through the doors as a temp, June 21st, 2010. And the team that I started in is now the team that I'm a team leader of.
The good old saying, you can be whatever you want. You know, I started off on the assembly line and I wanted more. So I educated myself, I started looking around opportunities and worked my way up.
Going wherever you want has been a hallmark of the Suburban since its inception. Yet the machine's radical change comes in 1967, with the introduction of a third door.
So this is the 67 through 72 generation Suburban. It's a very simple shape, and this body style in this generation is particularly iconic with collectors. The big one for this vehicle was the introduction of an additional door to make it easy for people to get in and out that were using it on a daily basis.
By the time the Suburban started getting more doors, it had been around for decades. Automakers are often slow to change a good thing. You got something that works, it's selling, it has a market. You don't want to mess with success.
Chevrolet still doesn't mess with success because every week they build over 7,000 new machines in the final assembly hall. The Chevy Suburban is the longest SUV in the world, covering a remarkable 5.7 meters. It's also the originator of the entire SUV genre.
It really is sort of the grandfather of the idea, and it took a long time for them to really catch on.
In today's car world, many crossover SUVs are built using a unibody construction technique. But not the Suburban. It still harkens back to a different era because it relies on a ladder-style frame.
Body-on-frame construction is largely gone from the auto industry, and what it describes is all of the mechanical bits are on this frame, and the body is merely something that's plunked on top of it. Not the case with Suburban. You can pull the entire body off, sit in the seat, drive it down the street, and it's fully functional.
The body-on-frame construction technique goes back to the very beginning of the Suburban story. Yet it takes a very long time and 7 different generations for the machine to truly hit its stride.
So this is the generation that ran from 1973 through 1990. So we're well into what we would call the modern full-size SUV. It's got 4 doors now instead of 3, so now everybody can easily get in and out of it.
This is the new Suburban by Chevrolet, station wagon styling on a tough truck chassis. It has fresh new appearance and convenience this year.
For the first 6 generations of the machine, customers had to choose rear seats as an option from the factory. But the 7th gen changes that, thanks to something we take for granted today: folding seats.
The Super Wagon that seats up to 9 when all seats are ordered. New for $79, an optional quick-release rear seat.
The 2nd row seat can fold down flat, and then the 3rd row seat is completely removable. Do I want to carry people, or do I want to carry cargo, or do I want to carry a few people and a lot of cargo?
The 7th gen machine will stay in production for an unprecedented 19 years.
Suburban sort of provided the modern SUV formula as we know it today. For a long time, SUVs only had 2 doors, so it didn't really quite work for the family. Suburban was the only one that offered the 4 doors, and that sort of was a game changer once smaller SUVs picked up on that formula. That's what sort of led to the explosion in the 90s for SUV sales.
These days, General Motors' full-size SUVs are so successful that if they were spun off as their own automotive company, they'd be the size of a Fortune 500 brand all by themselves.
The Suburban is essentially the same vehicle today that it was in the 1930s. It's the same shape, it's the same very basic design. The purpose is a little different these days. Obviously, the technology is a lot better, it's more powerful, it's safer, but it's still a Suburban.
America's a big country, and there's plenty of room in most of America for the Suburban. So that's what people want. They want a big, comfortable SUV. And that's sort of what American cars used to be. The Suburban sort of carries that on into the 21st century.
The nameplate has stood the test of time, and so do the machines.
The average is 11 to 12 years, and that's the average age. So that means there are many that are much older than that out there on the road.
Infusing decade-plus ruggedness starts on the chassis line, where craftspeople bolt the upper control arms on. Add the body mounts, exhaust system, and the rear axle. Then the disc brakes are tightened in place, and shock absorbers go on. Finally, workers swing the drive shaft into place and attach it to the rear differential. Before the entire chassis heads to a very special station called the rollover cell, where it's a quick flip in preparation for a big engine.
After we complete what we call the rollover, we put some brake lines and some other brackets in preparation to receive the engine and the transmission.
There's no time for the timid at the engine install station. Workers get just one shot to drop the power plant into place correctly.
We have two chains, one that guides for the engine, one that guides the frame. We lift it, set it, connect the drive shaft, set the engine down, slide in the prod shaft into the front axle, secure the engine over here and take the brackets off.
It's a high-pressured spot where every 60 seconds, a fully dressed engine is ready to go.
Timing and actually aiming. When he's picking it up, he's got to swing it in, get it on that one spot. Now, a lot of times you can't always see it, but just guiding it down without damaging the oil filter. When I first got this team, it actually took me a couple of weeks to really get the job down and comfortable with it.
The engine drop station moves fast, yet the friendships around here are lengthy.
Been here for 5 years now. I got a great team. Every day we come in, we make jokes, basically just, hey, hanging out with the guys. A lot of times we usually end up going to see movies together, we'll go hang out. We always see each other a lot.
Further down the line, they install the radiator and add a new set of wheels. Finally, when a powertrain sub-assembly is completed, it's sent to the main line.
In here, you have one of the main attractions in the assembly process, which is the body marriage. The product that we have is a body on frame. So in here, you can see what it means. The body or the main cabin comes on top of the frame.
Like everything else inside of the Arlington plant, the body drop is fast. It takes less than a minute to merge a nearly completed interior with the mechanicals.
After the body is set into the frame, that is almost fully complete.
Front fenders are installed. The bonnet is added. And then it's time for just a little bit of juice.
You gotta make of manufacturing one of your competitive advantages. When it comes into the mass production and the volume that we are producing, more than 300,000 units a year, one truck every minute, it requires a perfect coordination and calibration of the tools, the equipment, and the manpower that we use.
It's taken 24 hours for the Arlington team to transform metal blanks into a finished machine.
We are at the end of the assembly process. This is what we call the shipping line. It goes through a series of tests, make sure that everything is properly set, fit, tightened, connected. Then we have what we call the care line. And in here, we have a group of people inspecting, making sure that everything was okay to the eyes of the customer.
At this point, the majority of Suburbans are ready to head to customers. But every day, a select few take a different journey.
We have a very solid process in place. But we produce so many units, and team members, they have 5-10 seconds to do any element of the truck. But in mass production, you gotta make sure that you don't take any chances.
10 finished machines per day are sent to the GCA, or Global Customer Audit Center.
We evaluate every 10 vehicles per day, really intense to see how our vehicles are coming out.
Next, machines head to a care line, where they get a white glove treatment, as workers ensure everything is built properly. Then each vehicle heads to a rolling road.
The DVT, Dynamic Vehicle Test, where we test our vehicles on a dyno machine, and we program it to make sure everything's working correctly.
Finally, new machines spend 8 minutes inside of an intense water test to check for leaks. Then it's time for a little rattle and roll.
We shake several vehicles every day to ensure that everything is put together correctly, no extra rattles and noises. It's one of the things that bothers me is when my car rattles, so try to make sure that we're not giving customers any rattling cars.
The goal of auditing the machines is to help the factory keep tabs on the quality level of the builds. It's like an in-house focus group to ensure perfection.
I want to make sure they get the best vehicle that we can build for them. You know, they're going to have their families in these cars every day, and I want to make sure their families are safe. Everybody's family is important, just like mine is. Anybody that buys our product deserves to get a well-built vehicle, a safe vehicle. I try to tell everybody that every day, you know, build a vehicle and inspect a vehicle like it's your own.
Over 65% of all Suburbans leaving the Arlington plant are equipped with the top LTZ package, which features magnetic ride control, upgraded wheels, daytime running lights, 12-way heated seats, and a power-folding third row. Yet perhaps the hottest variant is the completely blacked-out Midnight Edition.
They drive really well. They carry so much stuff. There are so many insider secrets about what it's like to live with a Suburban that you don't really understand how great this vehicle is until you have one.
The Suburban's really grown and changed over the years as the buyer has changed. Originally, they were farm implements, and now they're passenger vehicles. The Suburban of today drives much more like a car, and it's a balance that Chevrolet has had to figure out because it's still built on a truck frame.
Suburbans are the modern Cadillacs of the road, and by that I mean 1950s Cadillacs. The biggest, most comfortable cars that you can drive mile after mile after mile and never get tired.
The Suburban's big, and it doesn't try to hide it with its design. It's proud of how big it is, and it looks it, and it's imposing, and it makes a statement. That's sort of a uniquely American thing.
An all-American sensibility that's continued to stand out because it's different from anything else.
The Suburban does something that other vehicles don't. The vast majority of crossovers and SUVs on the market are 5-passenger. The Suburban has 7 seats, and 7 seats you can actually use.
There are precious few vehicles that actually fit modern kids. And kids aren't different than they used to be, but the stuff that goes along with them. These huge car seats, these huge strollers, all this stuff doesn't fit in most cars.
There are smaller vehicles that offer a third row, but you can only put children back there. A 7-seat Suburban, you can put full-size adults or full-size teenagers if you've got a big family in the third row of it.
The best thing about a Suburban is the space inside. You don't have to organize any of your junk. You can just throw it in the back and forget about it, and it'll be there when you get there.
In an age of downsizing, the Suburban remains the one machine that can accommodate up to 7 passengers and their gear.
You can say, oh, I can get a pickup truck to tow. Well, yes, but your pickup truck won't haul 7 people. There's certain things that a Suburban does that other vehicles don't. And it's only a certain market, but in that market, it's the king.
Throughout the generations, at least the last 3 or 4, the formula is pretty much the same. It's a full 4 doors with a hatch, wagon shape, 4-wheel drive capability, off-road capability, and body on frame.
Suburban started to become minivan replacements. The minivan was uncool. That's what your parents drove, but big trucky SUVs were cool, and the Suburban could hold 7 people, which is almost as much as a minivan. So it starts out as a minivan replacement, and it's kind of the only game in town. So for a while, it's really got that cornered. These days, everybody's got an SUV of every size for every purpose. So the Suburban doesn't dominate the entire SUV market like it once did, but it's still a very important product in its own right.
The market for gigantic V8-powered, body-on-frame, 3-row SUVs might be dwindling. Yet the fact that Chevy's still in the game shows there's money to be made and families who need the space.
It's the type of vehicle that does it all. And yet, we all don't look at it as a mommy-mobile or a soccer mom-mobile. We look at it as, oh wow, here's a fleet of black Suburbans, someone important's coming. You look baller pulling up in a Suburban. You look badass.
They're quiet, you sit really high. It's very isolated, and you have this great V8 under the hood that has plenty of power. So the Suburban can move along pretty well.
It still drives more like a truck than any other SUV out there, but it doesn't drive like a pickup truck. It kind of exists in its own space, somewhere between crossover, car, and full-on pickup truck. In the case of the Suburban, it does the job it needs to do. No one is drag racing Suburbans. It has the power that it needs and the torque that it needs to tow, to haul, and to get it down the road safely and comfortably. It's not trying to be a sports car.
It's a mega-sized machine that helps define the SUV genre. Along the way, it becomes the longest continuously produced vehicle in the entire car industry. And it's the only SUV built in the heart of Texas. The Chevrolet Suburban, the original sport utility vehicle.
When I see one anywhere in the world, I can say, that's made in Arlington for sure, and I know the guys that they helped to put it together.
I wouldn't want to work anywhere else. The people I work with have a lot of pride, they love what they do, and we have fun. We really do try to have a good time when we're building these vehicles.
When I see a vehicle going down the road, it just gives me a warm and fuzzy feel that I had a part in building that truck. The same as if you would see your child playing football or something, they do a touchdown. I have that same feeling. I'm just filled with pride that I'm a part of that event.